What up, fellow chickens? So, with all the knowledge I'd gathered in the last 2 weeks, I felt it was only appropriate to make a full piece to show off if I actually learned anything or not. This drawing took me to the last second to come up with, just because I couldn't find any inspiration all week. Eventually I did come up with this. I'll take you through the sketch here. First off, I started with a background. I needed them to sit in the background, so I had to draw that first. I used a vanishing point and all that shit. I think I actually came out pretty decent. I feel like drawing the background first is definitely a good thing, FYI. Then it was time to add the characters in, which was a little bit of a challenge. I used reference for MAIA and Terra, although the Terra reference was the whole reason why I came up with the whole drawing. And then I just went into my painter pose board and chose this pose for MAIA. The reference was sitting in a different angle though, so it doesn't really matter that much that I use reference for it at all. I guess it was just inspiration. Since they had to sit there, I used a different method to get them in the frame. Usually I will start by the head and then add the rest of the body from the top down. This time I had to start with the legs. I used my 2mm pencil for the whole rough sketch. I basically made blobs of my characters and then added more and more things like guidelines, and then used my 0.5mm pencil for the actual sketch. So let's take it from character to character. Starting with MAIA. MAIA ended up being a little on the edge of the paper here because I didn't center it right. I had a couple problems with her pose. The reference I used didn't sit in this direction or in the perspective at all. I was basically just inspired by the pose and then had to wing it, which for me is always a bad thing. Her hands look weird and possibly too small. I like her face a lot and her arms and torso, although I did mess up her butt because she's not even really sitting on the bench. Since the bench is smaller, it's like she's sitting inside the backrest, you know? Whatever. I also had a bunch of trouble with her legs because perspective is super hard. KALEB. I really like how K came out here. I did have a bunch of trouble with his arms though, mostly with his hand, which you can probably see. One thing that was a lot better was the entirety of the proportions. Drawing everything as stick figures first really helped. Also drawing the whole, looking at the whole thing instead of concentrating on just one thing I'm sketching then is really helpful. Like drawing the whole shape out first before adding details is what I mean. Like, you know? KALEB's foot was giving me anxiety because I suck at drawing feet, especially in that perspective, so I searched up how to draw feet, and oh my god, if I see another picture telling me to just draw it, I will snap. I actually made an Instagram video about this a while back because it was bothering me so much. I think all things considered, I did pretty well. For Terra, I used reference, as I said. She came out looking like, instead of leaning against the window, she's sitting up uncomfortably because she's too far in the front. Her foot was a whole spiel as well, but the perspective was a little easier for me, so I think it came out fine. Adam. I haven't really drawn Adam a whole lot yet, and I really haven't talked about him at all, almost, but here he is, in color for the first time. Yay! We remember the last time I attempted a dark skin color with MAIA. What a disaster. So this time I decided to remix the skin color with my light skin tone and then add some browns in there. I really like how it came out. And as you can see, Adam is sitting there, eyes closed, minding his own business. This gives you a pretty good idea of how Adam is. He's a bit of a loner and he doesn't really like MAIA that much, whatever. Eli was alright to draw, although I had problems with his face. He looks like the previous pics I did of him, but I feel like instead of looking Asian, he looks a bit like a fish. I don't know, man. I'll have to work more on his facial features. His pose wasn't too hard, but it also wasn't as easy as Adam's. So now to the background. I made a basic diner. I didn't want the diner to look too much like it's all retro and cool or whatever. I just wanted it to be like a basic old diner. Across the street we can see a little grocery store from the last video, and then a couple of rando things that don't really look like buildings, but somehow since I drew that store nicely, I feel like you can almost not tell how little fucks I've given for the rest. I made a mistake for the diner. As you can see, my sketch ended, but I reconnected the whole thing and also used a bigger paper so that the part I didn't sketch at all was now in frame. If you look across the street, you can see that the store ends here. So if we follow perspective lines, we see that the diner should have also ended there. But I drew it like it continues. It's a very small mistake considering I haven't done any plans for the street or anything yet. I mean, for all we know, the diner could continue. It's fine. I just feel like it would have looked cooler if I had stopped the diner there and had them sit in the corner maybe, you know? So as you can see, I inked the characters in with a bigger brush pen. At least the contours of the characters, and the background and smaller things were entirely done with small fine liner. The coloring wasn't too hard, except I wasn't sure what colors to use. I'm not so sure about the booth colors. I do feel like changing them. As you can see, it's nighttime. What I did was I colored the entire thing behind the windows with the blue and then used the pink for the inside on the background. The whole diner experience you see here is very basic. Nothing too special, although I did add my veggie tots on the table here. I wanted my story to have some kind of signature food, so I made one up. I added shadows to all the characters and none to the background. In conclusion, I like how it came out. I think it looks like a nice group picture in the diner. I'm not sure how I feel about this color scheme though. So, I changed a couple colors here. First off, I didn't like the booth color, so I stripped it down as much as I could by just applying water and then taking it off first with a paper towel. And then I added about 3 coats of this brown yellow color because I kind of mixed it too much with water, so I just made 3 coats. And then I added a dark brown to the wooden part of the booth and the floor and the windows. And since we haven't learned anything though, I added the brown wood trim too early and made it bleed around. Yay! In conclusion, I like it better now. I think the colors now make the characters pop out a little more, which is good. Overall, I am satisfied with the characters, the backgrounds, and the colors. Background. Well, thank you all for watching. Okay, that really sucked, I'm sorry. Thank you for watching, and to conclude this, it's time for a weekly fortune cookie, which are empty, so instead we're gonna use an online one. Let's see. Face facts with dignity. Alright. Yeah, sure. And with that, I wish you a nice weekend. Today's fucking hot, and see you next week. Bye!